This is the first video, figured might give this YouTube thing a crack. The first few might be a bit sloppy as we work through some growing pains, but I want to cover a summary of every single game from now until the end of this 2019-2020 season. With that being said, let's head into day one. New Orleans Pelicans versus the Utah Jazz. A stellar performance from both teams after the long break. The Jazz took an early lead to start the quarter. The Pelicans went on a run of their own to get the lead back. Behind strong showings from B.I., JJ, and Drew, the Pelicans had a firm hold of their lead for most of the game. Trouble struck late in the fourth when Donovan Mitchell got going, bringing the game level. Gobert hits 2 free throws to give the Jazz the go-ahead. With 7 seconds to go and down by 2, the Pelicans seek out Brandon Ingram. He had the hot hand all game, so he was the natural option. He was able to find space for a clean look at a 3. The shot goes in and out. And the Pelicans lose by 2. Final score, 106-104 to the Jazz. Our player of the game is Brandon Ingram. First game back, and he made it very clear that he was ready to pick up where he had left off. This game's overachiever was Jordan Clarkson, who came off the bench to lead the Jazz in scoring, ultimately keeping the Jazz in the game against an extremely productive Pelicans bench. It was disappointing to see Zion Williamson only play 15 minutes in the first game back. It seems as though his minutes were managed poorly. In a game that came down to a single possession, the Pelicans might have had more use for his efficiency during crunch time. In the second game of the night, we have the LA Lakers versus the LA Clippers. This was a riveting game from the first quarter. The Lakers opened with a small lead, which they sought to grow over the first quarter, with Kawhi in foul trouble early. Although LeBron had trouble getting into his rhythm, the Clippers had no answer for Anthony Davis, who ended the night with 34 points. The Clippers fought hard in the second quarter to reduce the deficit, and carried that momentum into the second half with a 14-1 run. Paul George and Kawhi coming up big in the absence of the Clippers' bench powerhouses. The Lakers opened up the fourth quarter strong to be able to regain the lead. Although there was a bit of back and forth, the Lakers were able to white-knuckle their way to a victory after the go-ahead bucket from LeBron James, his first as a Laker. The Lakers win it 103-101. Despite missing the game-winning three-pointer, Paul George is still this game's player of the game. He had an outstanding night, shooting 67% from the field for 30 points on the game. In addition to that, Paul George was a pest on the defensive side of the ball, showing why he is considered one of the best two-way players the game has to offer. The Lakers were able to get surprise production from Dion Waiters. Although he struggled heavily shooting the ball from 3, apparently he couldn't miss when he was inside the arc, ending the night with 11 points on 50% shooting, and the highest box score plus-minus of any player on either team. Despite this being an exciting game which went down to the wire, it was obvious that players were still working some rust off. There were sloppy plays which resulted in a total of 36 turnovers. Cheers guys, that's all for today. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow.